Fantom has basically 10x'd in the last 6 weeks or so, but can Fantom continue to put in these huge highs? In today's episode, we're going to look at Fantom and work out some price predictions for what is going on in the Fantom charts. Guys, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. The reason I'm making this Fantom video is that Tyler Morrison, 11 minutes ago, has just asked me to make a video on Fantom. And if you want any particular cryptos covered, guys, make sure you leave them down in the comments below and I'll see what I can do about covering as many of them as possible. Further ado, then let's jump into the Fantom chart. So, okay guys, so the first thing we're going to look at, obviously, when we see things like this, they can't go on forever. So, obviously, if you've been making money and you bought lower down here, you're probably pretty happy with your situation. But ultimately, we want to potentially take some profits because then if we do see a bit of a drop, then we can buy in at a lower price. And also it protects ourselves against that as well. So if we take, this is on the daily US dollar chart. If we come back to what happened on the 10th of May where we had a previous spike, we can take from the day rather than the wick, the daily close, and then we can drop it all the way down to this low that we saw on the 20th of July. And if you bought around the 20th of July, congratulations. You are currently, literally right now, sat at 1,000% gains, which is obviously amazing. So if we look at what's happened previously, we've seen very little resistance. Ever since the 0.91 here, guys, we saw a little bit of resistance for a few days before breaking through. And since then, you know, we saw maybe a day's resistance at 1.618, and then we've moved up. But what we are seeing coming in at this higher level is these large wicks to the upside. Now, we have obviously in the past seen wicks to the upside, and it's continued up. But when we have like a parabolic curve like this, and it starts to break over this way, eventually we will see some signs of weakness. So I'd be surprised if right now we're going to see a push any higher than this next line, which is the 2.618, although we did see it recently in Solana, so always be cautious about what we see. That would be up at $2, $2.15, another huge rise from where we are at the moment. But drawing your attention, guys, down to the RSI, or the relative strength index, it is super high right now, which means it's very, very overbought. A lot of people are buying, and ultimately when a lot of people are buying and everyone's in profit, people might be prepared to hold and not necessarily want to sell off, but fewer and fewer people are going to be prepared to buy as the price is climbing, and that ultimately will result in a weaker price, and eventually we will see a bit of a drop. Now, if we look into the 15-minute charts, we can see we've been kind of moving upwards in this sort of almost parabolic type move, but we are starting to show a few signs of weakness. We did dip down here and retest that key Fibonacci level, but if we were to draw a line across from these 2 points, now obviously it takes more than one touch before we start to get kind of confirmation on these moves, but what we are seeing is some sort of a rising wedge pattern. And although occasionally they do break to the upside, ultimately once we sort of head towards the end of these patterns, they do break towards the downside. It could be something that happens sooner rather than later. Within this pattern, we've actually also got a smaller falling wedge, which is actually a bullish pattern. And actually drawing this falling wedge, we can see that we are moving down through here. We did have a breakout, we came back and retested. We're now retesting again. And if this line is able to hold, ultimately the price target for this will be back up towards this level, guys. So we could well see another push, putting in another high up towards the $2 level. But in terms of the risk to reward, obviously you know how high we are right now. It moves about sort of 15% approximately. In terms of what you're prepared to risk versus the reward, if this does jump down to the downside, we have got a significant way to fall. If we do come up here, then I think it's ultimately going to come back down to this level, and we are going to have some sort of a cool off. The technical target for this level would be down towards the bottom of this wedge pattern here, but bearing in mind how quickly it's gone up, guys, it would likely probably come much more aggressively down, as people who had made their profits will want to try and protect their profits and will start to sell off. Ultimately, that could cause some sort of large sell-off, and we could see a big dump on Fantom. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that in the longer term that you're not going to see a bigger price. I'm just talking about what's going to happen potentially in the next couple of days. Bearing in mind this is a 15-minute chart, you're looking at about sort of 16 hours time where we'd be looking to touch the top of this. As I mentioned, if we can't hold this line within this falling wedge of this rising wedge, and then that could potentially see us push. But if we can continue putting in these higher lows, then it's going to look slightly more positive until we're up at this level, and this is our next key area to look at for Fantom. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. Make sure you smash that like button, it really helps the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you again later with another video. Bye-bye.